Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a project using some awesome Spellbinders dies. I am just so excited to be a part of the Spellbinders Club Influencer Group for the next several months. Each month I'll be sharing the current month's Large Die of the Month kit and the Glimmer of the Month kit. Now how awesome is that? If you don't know how the kit clubs work, here is some information from the Spellbinders website. First, there are several different Kit of the Month clubs to choose from. There are also several different value clubs available so that you can get more than one kit and get a discounted price. Also, there are some other great benefits for being a club member, which include discounts on other purchases at Spellbinders and access to past club kits at member prices. Awesomeness! There are some affiliate links in the description box down below in case you're interested in any of the products that I'm using today. For my project today, I'll be sharing the Large Die of the Month kit for July. I'm also sharing the Glimmer of the Month kit in another video and blog post, so keep an eye out for that one too. Starting off, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I made as soon as it came in, because yeah, I did it again. As soon as the dies came in, I couldn't help but play. Now, first thing I noticed was the part of the die that was great for an envelope, and this kind of makes almost a box envelope that's about a 1/4 inch thick, which means it's great for cards that have got a little bit of dimension to it. Then, I just love this. I used all of the dies in this set and created this lovely little mini slimline card. I absolutely love how that turned out. So let me go ahead and show you the dies. So this is the set of dies, and it is a fairly large set. This piece, of course, is for the top flap of your top and bottom flap of your envelope. Got this piece, which is for the side flaps. We've also got some nice little leaves, and I think they're... Now I'm wondering what happened to my flower dies. Oh, I know where they are. I put them to the side because I've actually been doing a little die cutting with those because I wanted to make some more cards. And you have more little dies for that. Let me grab those real quick. So that's for the embellishment part and for the envelope. This is the piece that did the backing for that envelope, the big squab. And it also could cut out, if you chose, you could also cut out a larger card. I decided to use this just as pieces of the envelope. Now these are the pieces that I used for the front of my card. And what I did is I basically cut out each one I cut out as an individual piece. So I've got multiple layers going up. This has got some little dotted and stitched accent along the edges, so that is really pretty. You can see that there. There we go. And the next one in is a scalloped with some stitching detail. And then it's basically alternating. We've got the dots, and then the scallops, and then the dots, scallops, and then we've got this piece, which is a rectangular die with a happy birthday sentiment that fits perfectly in there. And when you cut that out, you get a sentiment piece like this. And that probably looks familiar to you if you've used the Truckin' Through the Seasons, I think was one of the sets, and the other one, which I have sitting here somewhere, was Sunday Drive. Those are a couple of die sets from I think it was last year and the year before, where they used those kind of as the tailgate, and I think that is just adorable. So I've made some cards using those before. But I just fell in love with this. As soon as it came in the mail, I could not help but use these up. So I am so grateful to Spellbinders for letting me be one of their influencers and share these with you. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a different card, but it is going to be, again, another mini slimline. So I'll go ahead and start putting another card together. I'm really not sure what all I'm going to do or what colors, but we shall see how it turns out. This card is going to be a little die cutting intensive. I cut out the two largest of the dies and created this nice little frame, and I'm going to cut out a bunch of those. I'm also going to cut out a piece of vellum to go behind my happy birthday sentiment, and I'm using the smallest of those scalloped pieces for that. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut down a card base for my card, and I will leave the measurements for this card down in the description for you guys and over on my blog. Then I'm going to just start assembling. I did cut out a bunch of those little frames because I decided I'm going to make a shaker card. So next thing I need to do is just glue those all together. That way it gives a little bit of space for all my shaker bits to shake around in. Next I need to cut out a piece of acetate though for the front of it. So I just used that largest frame, and I'm using that as a guide. I'm just using some scissors to cut that out. I didn't know how well it would cut through if I tried running it through with my die cutting machine, and I didn't really want those little holes on there either, so using my scissors worked out better. And now I'm just going to glue that down to the base for my shaker bits that I've already created, which I'm going to be using a bunch of sequins. These are just some sequins that I have in my stash. I've got some bright colors that I'm almost out of, so I'm using up pretty much all of those. I'm going to need to replenish soon. And then I'm adding in some little gold stars as my little shaker bits. And I had decided I'm going to use a piece of Yupo paper that I had done up with some alcohol inks quite a bit. I'm adding some anti-static powder inside that frame so nothing really sticks. And then I'm just going to glue that down onto my Yupo paper. And then I'm just going to go ahead and trim off all of that excess. Need some embellishments on the front of the card, so I'm using those little flower and leaf dies to cut out from the Yupo paper. Yeah, I'm going to use my Yupo paper again. I'm going to cut out some from Yupo paper, all of those little flowers, but I discovered it didn't cut well through my Gemini Junior, so I am using my metal shim there, and that made it so that each of these little pieces cut out perfectly. I did take a piece off of another Yupo paper alcohol ink background that was done in some greens to do all of those flowers. And now I'm going to go ahead and just put down that top frame, the one that I still had left over, to go over the top of my shaker. I was having to wait until everything dried because this, I'm sorry, on plastic and on Yupo, the alcohol ink, the art glitter glue does not glue quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and also do that sentiment. So I'm gluing down this little pink happy birthday sentiment onto the piece of vellum that I did earlier, and I'll set that aside to dry as well. Then I can get started on all those little flowers. So now I'm going to put together these pretty little flowers. Now I'm not good at making flowers. I'll go ahead and say that. I don't do it much. But I did figure out how to put them together on my sample. So I'm going to use this as a reference so I can try to remember what I did last time. First, I'm going to lay out all of the pieces for each of the flowers. Now, what I discovered on the 3 little dies, I believe you need to cut them out normally, not like what I did. Normally you'd cut each die out of a different color paper, and that helps you know how to layer them, which I think is awesome. It worked out so well on my pink and white card that I did earlier. This time though, I did cut everything out of that Yupo paper, so I've got oranges and purples and pinks and a lot of little foil pieces and silver and gold and such, so that it looks really pretty. And I'm just layering everything up, and then I'll glue it all together with my art glitter glue, having to pause for quite a while in between each piece because it does not want to dry quickly on this plastic paper, which makes sense. It doesn't have anything to soak into, so of course it's not going to dry that fast. I'm not going to have you guys wait around while I glue everything together. Instead, we'll go ahead and head over to the next bit, which is putting them all on the card. Okay, now I've got all my little flowers assembled, so now I have to figure out where do I want to put them on my card. So I've gone ahead and added that frame around the outside, and I've got this, the happy birthday sentiment adhered to that piece of vellum. I think I'm going to have that over here. It's not going to cover up all of the shaker bits, but you'll be able to still see that happy birthday sentiment and that pretty background. Oh my god, that is just so pretty. Love the shake. So I'm going to try, I think I want to have the ones with more purple on this edge-ish, and the ones with more yellow or orange on that edge, because the background paper has got kind of, it's in that, I use the same Yupo, I mean you guys know what I'm talking about. And I'm not good at this, so I am going to just play around and see what I can figure out with assembling these little flower clusters. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I am struggling trying to get these little flower clusters put together. And the reason for that is that the glue is not adhering fast enough for me to actually be able to go on to the next piece. I wind up at one point putting a couple of pieces together, gluing them together, and then just letting it sit for a bit with my tweezers on there to try to get them to adhere so I could go on to the next part. Thing is, my brain doesn't actually function that slowly. It's hard for me to do that. I kind of need everything to stick together so I can go to the next part and just keep going. Instead, I'm having to wait in between each one. This is just the nature of Yupo paper, and now I know. I don't know if I'm going to be using it that much, but this technique, using one of my backgrounds to do all of the die cutting, I think is incredible. I'm probably going to do this with some of my watercolor backgrounds. Not sure if I'm going to use Yupo anymore like this, just because I'm not patient enough to wait. I'm not going to make you guys sit through watching me do too much more of this, because it's painful just going through it a second time trying to watch it. I need it to go faster. Anyway, I'll go ahead and get everything put together, and then I can finish up that layout as to how I want it to all come together on the card. It's going to be so pretty. So I did change my mind. I decided to put one of the clusters up in the upper right hand corner, and of course I'm going to put the happy birthday kind of in the center, but over to the lower right hand side. And after, as always, giving everything a chance to dry, I'm going to go ahead and add the other cluster down in the lower left-hand side, which of course I'm having to add a couple more leaves because I'm not happy with it yet. I still have a couple of small bits left to play with, so I'm adding those as little accents on that sentiment piece. Sorry about the change in the lighting, and it looks like I changed my mind also while I was assembling this. I went ahead and put that other cluster up in the upper left-hand side instead of the lower, and I'm still fiddling trying to figure out, do I want to add anything extra? So I am going to go ahead and add this one more leaf here, and putting that kind of behind the flowers but in front of the sentiment just a little bit, that sentiment banner. And I'm adding another piece of greenery to that other little flower. Now it's easier to manage these now that the rest is adhered and in place and not going anywhere. Okay, now that that front panel is all done and we can get on to the easier stuff, I'm going to go ahead and just adhere this using my art glitter glue again because of that, basically because of the plastic. I want to make sure this holds on really well, and I think this is probably the best one to go with. If you guys know of something that works better on Yupo paper, please let me know down in the comments. And I'm just adhering that onto the front of my card base. Since I cut the card base a bit bigger than was actually needed, I'm needing to trim it off on the end. Started off with just my scissors to get it lined up right with the edge of that shaker panel, and then I'm going in with my paper trimmer to trim up the rest. Next, we get to work on the envelope that goes with our card. So I'm going to cut out one of that large rectangle and then two of each of those side banner pieces out of some regular white cardstock. Each of those side panels have got two score lines. So you just need to fold on each of those score lines, and that's going to make it so we're going to create a nice box envelope. I'm using some score tape to adhere this all together. So I just laid a line of that down on the right up against that score line that is on the tab closest to the outside, and then I'm just adding my card panel, that rectangle piece we cut out earlier, to that line. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other three sides. Okay, I don't know about you, but I sometimes struggle with putting down panels that I have I'm adhering with score tape or any kind of tape adhesive. So I decided to use a trick I use on my cards. I made a little handle so I could get it lined up better, and it worked so much easier. You could also use some liquid adhesive on top of your dry adhesive, and that would give you some wiggle room. But look at that, when it folds up, everything is just perfect. It is just the cutest little envelope. So now all you need to do is add a couple of pieces of score tape to the places where you want it to adhere together, on those bottom flaps, so you have that bottom part that pops up, and then on the top so that it adheres down. This finishes up this project for today. I hope this inspires you to do some crafting, and I'd love to see what you create. So come join my Facebook group, Crafting with Debbie, and show us your creations. There's a link in the description box below. Here are some other videos that I know you'll enjoy. Thank you so much for dropping by. And remember, if I can make it, you can too. See you next time.